Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. On behalf of Quintype and Beyond Media, we welcome you to this webinar series and perhaps our first in partnership with and Beyond and the Alchemy Group. Over the last several months, the content industry has been through challenging hoops, whether it's regards to evolving technology, consumption patterns, or even monetization. We often run into questions like, how can I get the best time for my online real estate? Is digital publishing even a viable business model today? Or perhaps do I need to be extremely tech savvy to avoid the pitfalls that publishers around, whether it's new, modern, mid-size or large, are often struggling with? These are questions that all of us have had at some point in time over the last few months, and we hope to help answer them, through these webinar series that we've got planned over the coming months. Just a few housekeeping details before we get started. I would encourage everyone to please send us your questions through the Q&A window you might see at the bottom of your screen. We're going to try and answer some of them through the course of this webinar, but if you're short of time, we'll answer most of them towards the end of it. Also, everyone who's registered for the webinar today will be getting a link to the recorded version of this session, along with a small survey afterwards. It's extremely important for us to know if these sessions are really adding value and benefit to you. So we'd really appreciate your feedback, that's going to help us plan webinars in the future. And on that note, I'm going to take a second to quickly introduce and Beyond and our presenter today. As a quick introduction, and Beyond is one of the largest programmatic companies based out of India, serving the biggest companies in the region and the world. They're working with more than 500 publishers spread across India, Middle East, Southeast Asia, as well as the United States, and have offices spread across Mumbai, New York, Dubai, as well as Singapore. Our presenter today is Pankil Mehta, who's the Chief Business Officer at the Alchemy Group, which is the parent company of and Beyond Media, and comes with about 15 years of experience spanning in digital marketing and consulting. Based out of Mumbai, Pankil's a very active industry advocate who likes to combine his business intelligence, with engaging customer-centric experiences. So, without taking much away from it, I'm just going to let Pankil take over from here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. Firstly, thank you, Vineet, for giving us this opportunity to present ourselves. There's an exciting road ahead for all of us, and I'm hoping we can maximize in terms of whatever we have to offer. Before I get started on the presentation, I was taking a look at all the registrations, and I realized that there's a mixed profile of people who are participating today. So right from website owners to editors to ad sales leads to product managers to programmatic specialists to ad operations specialists, I see a whole bunch of you guys here. And let me tell you all one thing, that there's definitely something for each one of you all to take back through this presentation. Over the presentation, I'll be briefly going over some of the basics of programmatic landscape. At any point, if you have any questions, feel free to send them across to us. And right at the end, I'll try and answer some or most of them. So let's just jump in. So and Beyond Media, I think Vineet has already done the introduction as well. But yes, we're a global SSP. We work with a bunch of publishers across various markets. Our focus has always been surrounding around how publishers can maximize their revenue, what value can we create for these publishers in the region, and how can we overall help increase their programmatic landscape. Quick look at our agenda today. So I'll be covering some of the fundamentals of programmatic, understanding the ecosystem, a deep dive on how publishers can build a solid ad stack, and probably some tips and tools that can help all of us. So let's get right to the start. Is your website ready for monetization? I think I've seen this, and I've discussed this with a ton of publishers, small, medium, large, some of them who are actively monetizing their website, while some of them aren't. So what are the basic essentials? We're looking at definitely some unique content out there, a minimum amount of page views, a good mix of traffic sources, which is search, which is basically traffic that you're getting via Google search or Bing, direct type-ins. So people actually coming to consume content by directly typing in your domain name in the browser. Referrals, again, being referred by different sources in the industry, and social. The percentages that I've mentioned here may not hold true for everyone, but having the right mix is what's important. We've often seen that publishers, let's say, for example, in the entertainment space, may have higher social traffic coming in since they're active on Facebook, etc. So that's not a problem at all, as long as we have a right balance between each of these sources. It really works well from a monetization standpoint. Along with this, must-haves, a powerful CMS. I think that's the starting point for any publisher. We've often seen that publishers don't have a full-fledged system and often are unable to keep up with all the monetization trends that are happening in the market. So having a powerful CMS is a must. Along with that, a Google Analytics to understand your traffic, understand your inventory, understand your users, and obviously AdSense. I think most of y'all or many of y'all on this webinar would be having an AdSense account. It's the entry level monetization product from Google, which helps publishers instantly monetize their site, and of course the social media handles that each publisher would need. So what is really programmatic advertising? So I know that many of you all have been in the business for long enough, might have received a bunch of ROs from various different agencies along with the creatives and serving those, directly on your site or using an ad server and serving them. Uh, Programmatic is the new age answer to that. I think it's the hottest topic around for all publishers. And what it essentially means is automated buying and selling of your inventory at scale. So I think one of the biggest advantages that we have with programmatic is we can build and scale quickly and efficiently. And if you look at the trends and if you look at how the markets are moving, you will see that majority of the buyers are spending more towards the programmatic advertising, since it allows them various different targeting parameters, audience segmentation, and therefore reaching the user that they desire. So again, what's the landscape looking like? Direct monetization and programmatic. Direct is basically anything and everything to do with get a direct RO from agency or from a direct advertiser, taking the creatives from them and serving that up. But we've often seen them that this is only suitable for either a large publisher who can have a full-blown team, or it may be good for some of the niche sites where they have industry-specific advertisers. But when I'm looking at the overall landscape, we see majority of the publishers do not have a direct sales team, and therefore programmatic becomes that much more important since it's completely automated and can bring in scale, with a click of a few buttons. Also, you can see on the right side that there are a couple of various different formats that I've covered here. Display obviously being the leader out there. We see more than 50% of programmatic advertising via display. And over the years, programmatic has even been enabled through video ads, social ads, audio, native, so literally getting a complete programmatic stack for different formats is something that's easily doable. So let's take a quick look at the landscape. So these are just some of the numbers which will probably give you a perspective in terms of how large is programmatic advertising already in APAC, and what are the trends looking like. You will see that we're looking at a 49% of our display ads being served through programmatically. 63% of total ad spends are going to be programmatically driven. So which means that almost 2/3 of the entire digital ad spends across the APAC market are gonna move programmatically by 2024, and which is why we feel that it's the right time for the publishers to, if you're not already doing anything on programmatic advertising, to jump into it. And if you're already in the game, then how can you maximize, how can you leverage that to take it to the next level. Another view at how is India doing specifically, because I know a lot of the audience today is India specific. So it's definitely growing. You can see the CAGR of 27% plus. Gaming has taken a huge scale up over the last 3-4 years. Some of the categories, like FMCG, e-commerce, automotive, are spending almost 50% of the programmatic ad spends. So really out there, whether you're a niche site, whether you're a large publisher, programmatic is something which definitely needs to be a part of your gameplay. So right. So what are advertisers really looking for today? Uh, let's take a deep dive. So if we roll back, let's say about 6 to 8 years back, most of the media planners would only be targeting maybe the top 5 or top 10 publishers in the space. But that's completely changed. Looking at the trends and looking at how things are, everything is moving away from just premium publishers to a lot to do with audience targeting. So as long as your content is brand safe, it's unique, your ads are viewable, and you have the right audience, uh, programmatic dollars will flow through to you. So it's no more a game of that only the top 5 or the top 10 publishers would actually benefit from this. It's across the spectrum. And again, as I said, if you have a niche site which is targeting a specific type of content, or a specific vertical, that's even better, because you can get a lot of dollars flowing through programmatic. So this is how the landscape looks like. I know for some of you guys it might be a little complex, and I'm going to try and break this down to make it easy for you all to understand. Start with this a little. So let's start with the publisher, which is you. So yeah, most of the publishers would be trafficking all their creatives using an ad server today, and these ad servers are basically integrated to SSPs. So what are SSPs? SSP is nothing but a supply side platform. So look at it like a tech platform which is integrating multiple publishers and multiple sources of inventory, so that all of that can be then offered to an ad exchange. Ad exchange is sitting right in the center. It's basically what makes the right advertiser and the right inventory, basically create the match for the right advertiser and the right inventory. And that's how all the SSP supply is available all on ad exchanges. Having said that, let's take a look at the advertiser side. So the advertisers in today's day and age work with a lot of media houses. These media houses basically have a trading desk. Again, trading desk you can look at trading desk as a service or as a platform where the advertiser can load up their creatives, uh, put up specific targeting parameters, and target that specific inventory. And that's how that inventory is targeted to specific that specific advertiser is targeted to specific inventory, which makes fulfillment happen. So programmatic landscape is complex in that sense, but keeping in mind that the technology over the years has become that much smarter and better, making sure that the right advertiser gets the right inventory becomes that much more easily accessible, and making sure that all your inventory is available via an SSP becomes that much more important, because in that sense you can have access to all the possible advertisers that are bidding in the landscape. So yes, I know that talking about the programmatic landscape, most of you all might be thinking that I already have it. How is it any different? We do have an AdSense account. We've pulled the tags from the AdSense account, put it on our site. It's monetizing currently. We're getting X amount of revenue, but AdSense is, though it is a programmatic way of buying, but it is still restricted. So as we all know, the AdSense platform works on a CPC, which is cost per click. It's typically more for smaller publishers, where demand is coming in from the Google AdWords program. So it's restricted in that sense, and it's only one source of demand for a particular supply, versus a programmatic landscape, which I mentioned in my last slide. You understand that it basically enables several networks and exchanges to come and bid and auction a specific inventory that it needs. So therefore increasing your pricing, giving you better CPMs, giving you better fill-through rates, and overall increasing your revenue using the programmatic landscape. So I think all in all, making sure that you move from a single environment, which is like an AdSense, to a multi-platform is something that most publishers should be considering at this point. We recommend the fact that AdSense is not important. It is going to be part of your stack always, but adding in more partners will always help increase the auction pressure. So let's jump down now into the how can I build a competent ad stack? How all of this looks so complex. How do I break this down? And if I want to make sure that my inventory is exposed to as many buyers so that I get the highest auction or highest CPM for that inventory, what are the things that I need to do? How do I look at my ad stack and make sure that it's something that uh, that will ensure that my inventory is getting the right value and the right price for it. So I think the starting point would be a Google Ad Manager account. Getting a good, as long as you have an AdSense account, getting a Google Ad Manager account is fairly simple. It is also known as DFP. Many of you guys might be knowing this as DFP. It's basically the central ad serving platform. If I look at India and APAC as a market, it's one of the primary ad servers in the region. So definitely going with a GAM account is something which is right at the starting point, which will immediately help you upgrade from your AdSense to Google Ad X, which is basically Google Ad Exchange, and it will also help you structure your entire inventory. So I know many of you guys directly take creatives, trafficking it directly on the pages, and you're unable to auction that inventory at multiple sources. Getting an ad server like GAM would enable you to do that and allow you to open your inventory across multiple sources. So that becomes your first step. The second is, yes, once you have the GAM account, what do we need? So there's a constant amount of optimization and yield management, as we call it, which needs to be done on the GAM account. It's nothing but optimizing floor prices, rules, etc., to get the right CPM and fill rate for your inventory. So we've seen varied amount of publishers. I can think of examples where a publisher believes that his inventory should not be sold below a $2 CPM, and at the other end I might have another publisher who thinks that maximizing through a lower CPM but getting through higher fill throughs is a better game for them. So having a GAM account and being able to optimize that to meet the requirements is something that would be required. So a constant process of optimizing yield based on trends, based on different time of the month, based on whether it's start of the quarter or end of the quarter, based on whether there's festive season coming up. You can actually optimize your GAM account to make sure that you get the highest amount of fill rate. The third would be balancing content and ads. I think one basic fundamental that I definitely want to break through: more ads is not equal to more revenue. It's not like how it used to be 5 years back. We've often seen lots of publishers, even the larger ones, make the mistake of saying that I have four ad spots on my page. Why don't I make it 6? Why don't I make it 8? Why don't I make it 10? That's how we'll make more money. But I don't think that works anymore. So more ads is definitely not equal to more revenue. Ensuring that you have the right ads and right balance between your content and the ads is what's actually going to give the entire uplift in revenue. And again, a strategy which we've seen very often is putting ads right up as the user loads the page. So it could be an article page, it could be a home page, and we've seen 2 ad spots, 3 ad spots right up front before even the first scroll. There are enough and more technologies available which understands that that the content and ad ratio is not met, and in the long run it penalizes you, and you would end up seeing probably even lower revenues than what you were without those ads. So this has become an important and integral part, and this will also roll back to something like having a good CMS, having something which is very modular, very flexible, which can help you to create that right balance, allow you to A/B test between different ad spots and see actually what works for you and what really gives that required uplift of revenue. Coming to the next one, which is maximizing current page views. Again, we've seen publishers, hit a huge amount of deadlock. They reach, let's say, 1 million page views, and they're struggling to further scale up the page views. And they have enough amount of ad spots. The ad spots to the content ratio is also clean and nice, but they still want to maximize in terms of what they can do to increase the revenue with the same user base or the same page views. So there are often technologies available. If you did take a look at the video on the right, you would see that there was an ad, which the 300 by 250 ad, which is sitting right here, which loaded first, and which then flipped into another ad, after X amount of seconds. So there are various techniques available to maximize your ad positions and to maximize the dollar from the same position. So this is something, again, which we see a lot of the larger industry guys following it, where they simply refresh the ad which is viewable after 30 seconds, and that way create an extra impression for the same user for the same page view. So if they had 4 ad units on a particular page, and if the user spends, let's say, 2 minutes on the page, they would now be able to serve probably 7 or 8 different ad impressions for that same page view. And yes, it's definitely something that we want to make sure is policy compliant. It is as per the industry standards. So it's something that we need to make sure that the tech works in that particular fashion. The next one's going to be unfilled inventory. Again, this is probably targeting some of you guys who have a large pool of inventory and are looking at anywhere between 20 to 40% of unsold inventory sitting in the system. So I see these use cases happening for the more mid to large size publishers, where they do see that there's an X percentage of inventory which is month on month unsold, and they don't know what they should do with it. So we've often seen that, trying to get them specific direct deals for their unsold inventory, or trying to run specific category-based performance advertisers for their unsold inventory works really well and actually gives them that extra dollar, which if you look at historically, they would not be making anything off that inventory. So again, this is typically for use cases where I see publishers with over 10 to 20 million page views. They would have easily anywhere between 15-20% unsold to even as high as 30-40% in some cases. So having a right strategy in terms of how to balance and how to maximize the unfilled inventory is extremely important for a lot of publishers. Another way is to go native, and again, this is going to come back to my part of talking about balancing your content and your display ads. So yes, if there is revenue pressures, and if you need to, we need that extra revenue to kick in, going native is a very, very good way to do that. Making sure that you do a few native ads on your site, because they look good, they don't compromise your UI, they fit in well with your content. In most cases, they are contextual, which means the ads that you would see would be similar to the content the user is reading. So works really well for user experience. There are a bunch of native products available in the market. Google has recently launched the multiplex units, which is the one that you're seeing on the right side, which is basically tiling different ad spots in a 4x2 layout, which is 4 ads horizontal and 2 ads vertical. So it's a combination of 8 ads. It has huge amount of customizations, can fit into any custom sizes that you want, and very true native to the content. So definitely a must have for a publisher to create the right balance between display and native. Along with that, a couple of high impact units. Again, this really helps. Instead of creating your 6th and your 7th and your 8th display unit, which is just sitting out there, trying to create a high impact unit. You can see the video on the right hand side where we're showing a background. We call it the flying carpet unit, where it sits below the content, and with the user scrolling up and down, it actually the ad is right there. So doing a few high impact units on your site is again something that we recommend. Uh, uh, and in that way, you can actually reduce your number of standard display units. So you could have, let's say, for example, either 2 or 3 standard display units. Along with that, you have a native widget and probably 1 or 2 high impact units. That way, you can actually bump up your revenue because it will create the right balance that is required. Video, something we definitely cannot forget. I know many publishers. I think the first question which I get from most publishers here is, we do not have video player, we do not have video content. We've seen that video makes high CPMs. We know video does really well. We want to do something in video, but we don't have a starting point. What do we do? How do we get these formats in? I've seen this format on another site. I've seen my competitor having this kind of format, and I want to do it, but I don't have the infrastructure to either produce videos or even manage a video player, video streaming kind of a high cost tech infra. In that cases, trying to find a partner who can give you the end-to-end video management solution, which is right from the player to the streaming to the content to the monetization, is something that's very easily available in the market. And trying to get someone who can actually power that up for you is what's going to work. You can see the example that we've put here on the right side. It's one of our outstream players out there. It works. It's like an in-read player which sits within the content and has the capability of taking the video content from the publisher, taking third-party video content, and then layering that up with pre-roll ads. So that's an example that I can show you guys here. And I think lastly is how do we increase competition inside our stack? Pankaj, we have Google Ad Exchange, we have AdSense, we have the GAM account. We are doing some amount of yield management. We are seeing upside, but we still feel that we are not getting the right value for our inventory. We still feel that there are many buyers sitting out there who don't have access to my inventory, but who can be potential advertisers for me. And I still want to do all of this programmatically. I still want to do this at scale. So header bidding was recently launched as an answer to this problem, which basically helps you increase competition. Without going too much into the header bidding concept, but the fundamentals are very simple, that we can make multiple buyers bid for the same impression on a real-time basis. And that's what, so look at it that there's an impression 1 and there are 5 buyers simultaneously bidding for that. The one who bid highest for that particular impression is the one that will serve the impression. And as we all know it, more the demand, more the auction pressure, higher the CPM and higher the fill-through rates. So these are competition inside the stack, and make sure that that every single impression has a tough competition or a tough fight in terms of within the buyers to get access to your inventory. So these are a few things in terms of how to stack up your ad stack, but I don't think we should forget that tech plays an important role in monetization as well. In fact, most times I see publishers completely forgetting about it. They put up a site, they put up display native video units, they get the GAM account, and they still keep complaining, saying that I'm still not seeing the revenue uplift. I'm still seeing that we did see a 10% bump up, but it's not enough. For the effort that we put in, we're unable to see the kind of upside on it. And that's when we start actually digging in, we realize that the tech infra of the publisher is quite in a mess. They suffer from extremely high page load times. Their content management system is completely outdated, doesn't support half the things that is required. The ad calls that are going to the ad server do not follow the SRA structure, which is the single request architecture. So again, efficiency issues over there. And again, the layouts are not modular enough in that sense, which means if we need to move an ad position from the first scroll to, let's say, right up there, it's extremely cumbersome and extremely difficult for the publisher to do that. So tech definitely has an important role on programmatic, since as I mentioned right in the start, advertisers are looking for high viewable traffic. Advertisers are looking for traffic which has got good click-throughs. Ads that have got good click-throughs. That can only happen if your tech stack is intact and behaves and works in the most efficient fashion. Jumping in to how to stay ahead of the curve. These are just some of the points. AMP is again another buzz. Most of the publishers are moving to AMP. Something we recommend as well. Helps you reduce bounce rates. The experience is extremely good. The users love it because it's instant load. So moving to AMP is definitely what publishers should consider. Lazy loading with multiple size creatives, again, tricks to help you increase viewability and fill rates. So if you have a particular ad spot, can you load it only when the user reaches the specific viewport? And when it loads, can you ensure that it's a multi-size creative, which means at instance 1, it could load a 300 by 250. On an instance 2, it could load a 300 by 600. So making sure it is a multi-size. Along with that, doing right amount of optimization, setting up the pricing rules, and then throwing in some amount of audio content is definitely important. A quick look at the must-have tools. I'm sure many of you guys would be using these tools out there. There are a bunch of tools we have access to. We keep sending this out to a lot of our publishers. There are like more than 15 of them. If you guys would want to get, feel free to reach out to us, and we can have that sent over to you all and tell you all what are the best practices being followed by some of the larger publishers in the ecosystem. And jumping in finally to the common publisher concerns. I've seen that some of you all are talking about ad blockers, saying that we see that we're losing almost 10 or 15% of our visitors to ad blocks. Again, if we comply with better standards, make sure that the site has the right balance. We've often seen that users are more acceptable to consuming the ads, and again we've seen a lot of times giving messages out that that we can see that you placed an ad block, and for better experience we would request you to unblock it. Stuff like this, explaining to visitors, works really well. A mobile first approach, again, is something that I've seen publishers worry about. They've seen that over the years they would have 30 to 40% of the inventory sitting on desktop, which is now probably 10% or lesser, and 90% is sitting on mobile web. So again, having a mobile first strategy, what should we do? How should we ensure that we get the right monetization and the right consumption of content through mobile is what we've seen as some of the concerns. And again, as I said, getting the right strategy and getting the right ad stack for a mobile device is something which is extremely important. Impact of COVID, probably a conversation I've had with most of my publishers. I think looking at India and APAC, we need to worry less, because whatever stats we see out there, we're going to be seeing one of the fastest bounce backs across the globe. So APAC is definitely going to be right ahead in the curve when it comes to bouncing back. In fact, if you look at data for September and late August, things have already started to come back up. Many of you all might have seen your monetization also come back almost to the original levels. So yes, we did see a massive impact through April, May, and June, but things are only getting better, though the advertiser mix has changed. So if there are specific categories which were advertising earlier, they may not be advertising today, but there are a bunch of newer categories which are spending actively. And last is the paywall. Again, something I've been asked by a lot of publishers with COVID coming around, that should we move our content behind paywall? Will it work for us? Do you think someone would want to pay us a subscription for our content? Again, this is a very case-specific analysis here, where we can doing a paywall may be recommended as long as we again have the right strategy. Putting a hard paywall saying that we will not let you consume any content definitely does not work. But having a right strategy balance between some amount of free content and some amount of paid content is what most publishers should consider. So I think that's about it from my end. How do we get started? So I think Quintype, the page builder product which they've recently rolled out is definitely one of our preferred CMS solutions out there. We are completely pre-integrated with that. So through a few clicks, we can easily get anybody up and running. And we know for a fact that it allows us to do most of the things that I've mentioned in the presentation. And yeah, if any of you guys want to reach out to us and want to take this conversation forward, I would recommend to reach out to any of your Quintype AMs and ask them to put in touch with us, and we'll be happy to have probably a more detailed session on what we've discussed today. So I think that's about it from my end. Happy to take a couple of questions. So I see a few coming through. So let me pick this one up. Would I be able to deploy some of these solutions without a dedicated ad ops team? So yes, most of these solutions can be deployed even for a small to mid-sized publisher. I'm assuming that since you don't have a dedicated ad ops team, you would probably be a smaller or mid-sized publisher. So we can definitely do that. Most of the solutions that are offered by us or people in the market are completely managed solutions. So right from deploying it to making sure it monetizes to giving a unified dashboard where you can see all your earnings is something that can easily be managed. So to answer your question, yes, you do not need a dedicated ad ops team to still achieve most of the things that I mentioned in my presentation. Let's look at another one. What is the minimum page view requirement for getting started with programmatic? Yeah, so I think I've mentioned this right in the first few slides. We're looking at least 100,000, at least 100,000 plus page views to get you guys started on programmatic. And along with that, I think more than the page views, also making sure that you have the AdSense account, you have analytics integrated, you have the CMS in place is important, because you could have the page views, but if you don't have the ability to deploy some of these solutions, then it may get tricky. I've got an interesting one here actually. Do advertisers take into consideration the traffic on the website is organic or it's arbitrage? So it's a tricky one out there. We've stumbled across a lot of publishers who have high volumes, but soon to realize that most of those pages are coming through click farms, or they've bought, they're buying inventory. So we often tell the publisher that at least 70% plus of your inventory should be organic. 70 to 80% I would say would be organic. 10 to 20% could be a bunch of campaigns that you are running to either promote your content or promote your site. Again, I see another one. What should be the first step to start monetization on my website? I think I've already answered that one. A good CMS, AdSense, analytics, and your social media handles is what you would require. Do you also check ComScore also or sites? Yeah, interesting one. So yes, we do take a look at the ComScore, but that's not the only, because we've often seen there are publishers out there with decent volumes but are not part of the ComScore list. In that case, we have various amount of tools that we can utilize to actually check in terms of the feasibility for the publisher and what sort of uplift in revenue that the publisher can see. How should we increase fill rate for programmatic considering Indian market? So as I mentioned, if you're using only AdSense or using a single monetization tool, definitely something that I would not recommend. Using, getting in a ad server, making sure you have a GAM account, making sure that's aligned to the structuring of how your site looks, making sure you have the right placements. There are a bunch of things that will help you increase fill rates. And so right from getting the right ad units to getting the right set of tech and advertisers integrated, and then ensuring that your tech infra is working in place to get that.
Hi, Pankil. I know we've kind of bled a little bit over, but maybe perhaps we could take two more questions.
Sure.
We're going to record all the questions that are coming through. May I also request the attendees that, please feel free to keep sending your questions or email us directly. You will also be receiving a recording to the link along with a short survey. We'd really appreciate your feedback, on the sessions, perhaps even suggestions on what other webinars might be suitable for you. But I'll just let Pankaj take a couple more questions and we can wrap it up then. Thank you.
Sure. Sure. So I see one more, which is what about regional language publishers? So regional has been one of the big growth areas. I see, in fact, in terms of page views, we see the maximum amount of growth coming through regional. And most of the Indian languages are supported. So I would say that if we go back 2018 maybe, regional was a challenge to monetize, but I would disagree right now. We see some of our regional publishers making as much revenue as an English publisher, so it's definitely catching up. Though there are some languages which are not supported currently in terms of monetization, but majority of the top languages are. I think I'll take a last one here. How will the publisher know which ad placements are going to work for their site? So this is exactly which will come back uh, to having the right CMS, which will allow us to do A/B testing, which will allow us to be able to create ad units at different positions of the site, running some sort of a heat map on the site, which is basically telling us which part of the page is your user spending maximum amount of time, and making sure that there is a non-intrusive ad on that viewport is something. So these are the tricks that we use with publishers to get them that maximum revenue, because often we've seen that a publisher might just put up a 300 by 250 MPU right on top and assume that I'm going to make the highest money through that, but that does not hold true every time. We've often seen that some of the units which are sitting on first scroll can actually make more money than something sitting on a ATF, primarily because most of the users are actually scrolling down quickly and spending maximum amount of time on that viewport. So again, there are tools available to do that. We internally have our own scripts which actually are able to understand which position the ad unit should be placed for a maximum ROI, which is basically giving you high CPM and high fill throughs. I think we'll end this at here. I know I can see there are way too many questions come through. If you can send that out to the Quintype team, and if you want to do a one-on-one, probably some of you guys will be happy to take those conversations forward. Vineet, over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Pankaj. That was very informative, and really appreciate the insights. And thank you everyone once again for joining us today. As I mentioned, we're making note of the questions that are coming through. We want to make sure all of them are answered. So, we will reach out to you with answers to the questions that are posted already. But I assume there might be more, and please feel free to either send them across along with the survey, and we can go from there. But thank you very much, Pankaj. And for everyone, we'll hopefully stay tuned and meet again on the next webinar series. Have a nice day.
Thank you.